Hippos are some of the deadliest land mammals in the world. Here are 30 encounters that show you why you should never mess with them in the wild. Here are some tourists out on an African safari looking for some wildlife, and it's their lucky day because they've just stumbled upon a hippo that doesn't seem bothered by their presence.
Oh, there's the mouth. Who has the key?
That's not the case for very long, though. The hippo starts opening its mouth wide. Now, that's a show of dominance for these beasts, and it's a warning to the safari vehicle to back off. And when the tourists don't heed the warning, well, then they might as well be enemies for the hippo. So it slowly starts moving up on the Jeep before charging at a spectacular speed, especially for a beast of its size.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Ooh! Oh my Oh my God!
The Jeep's definitely not faster than the hippo, and it's only when they drive through a puddle that it decides to call off its pursuit.
Oh my God!
Hippo attacks can be devastating on land, but the way they can hide themselves underwater and pounce on their prey is perhaps even more dangerous. And this man in a boat is about to experience that as he spots a hippo lurking in the distance.
Yes, it's there.
The massive underwater beast sizes him up a bit before launching into a full charge, gliding through the water like it's nothing.
Hey! Whoa.
The guy on the boat knows what he's doing, though, as he quickly makes his way to land before the hippo can catch up and runs up to a safe spot. As for the hippo, well, it taunts the guy for a bit before diving back down underwater.
Stop.
Here's a hippo in Botswana that appears to be peacefully bathing itself as a photographer films it from a wildlife safari truck. But while everything looks fine, the tourist's about to learn the lesson of a lifetime. Within seconds, the hippo goes from stationary to charging the truck at a rate of knots, and at that point, it's sheer panic from everyone involved. After all, there's no way you can see that massive beast coming at you and maintain composure. The driver tries to race away, but the truck's stuck in the mud. Not to mention the hippo digging its teeth into the vehicle probably isn't helping either. The situation is terrifying, and it's a miracle they make it out of there unscathed. Here's another example of a young hippo spotting a tourist safari vehicle and thinking it's a threat. To be fair, it doesn't go gung-ho and start charging like we've seen before, but it's still curious and wants a closer look.
Keep seated.
Is that a face only a mother could love?
That said, the tour guide seems to have everything under control, because even before the hippo makes a move on their truck, he starts clapping to scare it away, and for a brief moment that actually works. But of course the hippo's not going to let these people linger around for much longer, so it keeps coming back while opening its mouth to threaten them. And it's a truly fascinating back and forth between the beast and the guide. The tourists then drive away before things get out of hand. After all, you can never be too careful around a wild hippo. Now, this has to be one of the most terrifying sights in the world, because not only is this massive hippo charging toward the camera at an insanely high speed, but it's doing it through water. It's almost as if the water isn't a hindrance for it at all, and its aggressive nature lets it ignore everything else and go straight for the attack. And of course, the hippo's showing its teeth to display its anger. That said, the hippo isn't out for senseless violence. The reason it's mad is that it doesn't want intruders in its territory. And to be fair, it's doing a good job of driving threats away. Now let's head over to a lake in Kenya, where a bunch of wild hippos are observing a speedboat race by at a distance. But while that might be a mesmerizing sight for the tourists, they are totally unaware of what's about to happen. Everything changes within a blink of an eye as a hippo emerges from the water and starts chasing the boat. Seeing a beast of this size chasing you is already scary, but the fact that it can swim and dive like that is even more terrifying. Despite the hippo's unrelenting chase, the speedboat's just got a bit too much juice for it, which means the tourists don't have any trouble outpacing the beast. Speaking of hippos chasing boats, here's another tourist boat going through Lake Naivasha in Kenya and encountering a bunch of female hippos that feel threatened by its presence, so much so that one of them even starts charging at the tourists.
Oh my.
The tourists seem to be having a good time, but they definitely wouldn't be laughing if they knew just how dangerous and brutal these creatures can be. Besides, even if the boat's faster, there's always a chance of another hippo pouncing from a different angle. In fact, that's exactly what happens, as one hippo gives up the chase and signals another one to continue with the attack. And just like that, the tourists have to deal with another massive beast, trying to drive them out of its territory. That was super close and could have gone really bad for the tourists. These tourists have just spotted a hippo in the distance, and judging by the fact that it's gone underwater, there's a good chance it might be slowly creeping up to launch an attack.
Sí.
Viene.
Atorado.
Viene para acá.
He's coming.
The guide anticipates the attack as well, so he speeds up the boat and starts moving it forward before the hippo actually approaches their location. After all, you can never be too careful around a creature like that. And just as everyone anticipated, the hippo swims closer without any warning and launches itself out of the water, hoping to catch the boat. Sure, it misses the mark with its attack, but the fact that it gets so close without ever showing itself is still incredibly scary. We've established that hippos are nimble in water, but what's really surprising about them is that they can actually maintain their momentum while coming out of the water and then continue the chase on land. The tourist truck gets a bit too close to the hippo's territory, so it's only natural for it to drive them away. But once again, even the tourists are caught off guard by how quick these extremely heavy creatures can be. With that said, once the hippo makes sure its calves are safe, it stops the chase and returns to its bloat. Ed Stafford is a survivalist, and he's just climbed to the top of a tree after encountering a massive hippo in the jungle. The hippo hasn't noticed Ed yet and seems to be scrounging around the area for something else.
All fully grown adults been in quite a few scrapes.
I just climbed up the tree, that's what scared it.
What's really dangerous about the situation, though, is the fact that this hippo's been in some intense fights, as it has scars all over its back. Judging by that, it probably wouldn't hesitate one bit before obliterating a human.
That's extraordinary. You see all the scratches on its back? Crikey, I just shot straight up this tree.
Ed knows exactly what he's doing, because not only does he completely stay off the hippo's radar, but he also films it going back to the water, right next to his camp.
Going into the water. I found out where the hippo goes into the water. In my camp.
Enough about hippos in a wildlife reserve. Here's one that's walking freely in St. Lucia, a town in South Africa. The beast, which is almost as big as a truck, isn't bothered by its surroundings at all and simply crosses the road without attacking anyone. Don't worry, it hasn't escaped from an enclosure or anything like that, because the town is part of a 280-kilometer World Heritage Site, which is home to almost 800 hippos. In fact, the town is full of signs that warn visitors to be wary of hippos. Still, it's very rare for one of these to make an appearance in the middle of the day. This right here is the perfect example of why hippos are so dangerous, as even this zookeeper can't cope with the seething rage of this absolute behemoth.
A zookeeper at the Changsha Ecological Zoo in China's Hunan province was charged by an enraged hippo after he tried to break.
It all starts when the zookeeper steps in to break up a fight between two territorial hippos. But even though he manages to end the fight, he has to pay a heavy price for it.
Break up a fight between two territorial bulls. The incident was caught on camera and shows the zookeeper slipping over on the wet concrete surface entrance as the
hippo is now mad at the zookeeper. And to make matters worse, he's trapped inside the enclosure with the beast. In fact, the poor guy slips on the wet concrete floor right as he makes his way through the door.
The zookeeper was able to avoid being attacked and escaped unharmed. Officials at the
He was unharmed, but he's probably scarred mentally from the incident. Let's head back to the water, as these tourists encounter a very angry hippo while sightseeing around Lake Victoria in Kenya. Of course, the reason why it's mad is simple. It doesn't like intruders near its home. We've seen it time and time again when tourists get a bit too close to a hippo's bloat. And to be fair, if these creatures weren't so dangerous, seeing them glide through water would be a great spectacle. But obviously an angry hippo is no joke, and these people are lucky that they're in a speedboat that can easily outpace the beast, because otherwise, things can get really nasty around these bad boys. Here's another group of hippos huddled up in a lake. Seeing so many of them together is obviously fascinating for the tourists, so they decide to scoot closer for a better look. And, well, we all know where this one's going, don't we? Once the tourists get too close for comfort, for the hippos, one of them drifts away from the bloat to look at the boat, and within seconds that inquisitive gaze turns into full-blown anger as the hippo bursts through the water to attack the boat. But again, the hippo isn't going to charge at the boat for no reason. So as soon as the tourists heed its warning and distance themselves from its offspring, the hippo turns back and swims back to its family. Not all hippos are inherently dangerous. In fact, a pygmy hippo like this one can actually be quite friendly. But obviously you still don't want to get on the wrong side of these creatures. This pygmy hippo doesn't feel safe in its enclosure, especially with all the tourists surrounding it, so it tries to run at them with its mouth wide open in an attempt to threaten them. No one's intimidated by this poor little guy, though. Even the other animals walk up to it like it's no big deal.
They're baring teeth at each other.
Let's head back to the wilderness, where this hippo has just spotted a tourist trespassing on its territory, and, well, it doesn't look very happy. The beast starts furiously swinging its tail and making sounds to deter the threat, but the worst is yet to come. When the initial threats don't work, the hippo has to resort to aggression, which usually means charging at its target to drive them away. And even though it doesn't have any intention of actually attacking the tourists, that's always a possibility if they don't move out of its territory. Now here's a prime example of what happens when you don't heed a hippo's warning, because this bad boy is sick of people invading its home and getting too close for comfort. So the tourists are in actual danger as the hippo charges and attacks their car. Thankfully, the hippo gets startled by the impact and leaves the tourists alone. However, things could have gone much worse if the tourists hadn't moved, because even a weak attack is enough to destabilize the vehicle.
Wow.
In fact, hippos are dangerous enough to destroy a car and everyone inside. In a textbook example of what you definitely should not do, here's a zoo security guard slapping a hippo that's managed to climb out of its enclosure. The guard thinks it can intimidate the beast and send it back, but that's not the case at all. Hippos aren't usually aggressive in captivity, but that doesn't mean they're docile either. If threatened, these beasts are some of the most dangerous animals out there and can easily snap a person in half with just a single bite.
Ooh.
The guard continues to hit the hippo and antagonize it, not realizing that the beast is opening its mouth as a warning sign. Thankfully, things don't get too out of control and the hippo retreats into its enclosure without resorting to violence. Let's head over to Botswana, where this tourist is going through the wilderness in his canoe. But while everything looks calm, things are about to change for this group. The crew has just spotted a lone hippo in the distance, and guess what? The big guy isn't too pleased about these people going through its territory. So without a second thought, the hippo starts charging at them.
He saw us, and we suddenly found ourselves being charged by the huge beast.
Now this situation's incredibly dangerous, because remember, these guys don't have speedboats, and a hippo can easily dismantle a canoe. That said, the guides are in total control here, as they are able to intimidate the hippo with their sticks and make it retreat. Here's a bunch of tourists going across a lake on a speedboat. The views are absolutely breathtaking and everything's calm and serene. But look closely and you'll see a hippo eyeing its next target in the distance. It watches the boat race by for a few seconds before diving underwater and initiating its chase. What's actually terrifying about this situation, though, is the fact that the hippo is really good at hiding itself and could emerge from any direction.
It's coming here?
But once again, the speedboat is a little too fast for the hippo, as it gives up its chase after a couple of lunges.
Oh my god! We are being chased by the hippo. Go fast.
These tourists wanted to get up close and personal with a hippo just to take a bunch of photos. What they don't realize is that hippos are incredibly territorial in nature and don't like having their personal space invaded. So, to no surprise, the hippo starts charging at the boat as soon as it gets too close. In fact, the majestic beast almost gets a piece of the boat before it races away. And if the driver hadn't been quick on the acceleration, things could have gone very badly. Have you ever been in a situation where you're talking behind someone's back and that person shows up seconds later? Well, that's exactly what's happening here too, as these tourists talk about deadly hippo attacks in the area.
Live by their rules. So they crossed the fence and they wanted to get like a close fence.
Yeah, that's their fault.
Little do they know, however, that they're about to experience one of these attacks firsthand, because there's a hippo stalking them. And before they even realize, the beast jumps out of the water and attacks their boat. They're very lucky to have come out of this unscathed. Speaking of dangerous situations, this guy is doing the exact opposite of what you're supposed to do if you spot a hippo in the wild. Because rather than turning the other way and running for his life, he's actually walking towards the beast.
Сейчас будем бежать за бегемотом.
What's even more surprising is the fact that he actually manages to intimidate the hippo with his voice and movement, causing it to run away. But of course the guy is super lucky, as not every hippo is going to be as friendly as this one. Let's take a complete 180-degree turn and look at what you should do if you encounter a hippo, because as soon as this guy sees that hippo coming out of the water, he doesn't hesitate for one moment and makes himself big to intimidate the beast. Hippos are dangerous and can be incredibly unpredictable, so everyone's experience is different. If flailing arms and shouting worked for this guy, it may not work for someone else, so your best bet is to keep your distance.
This does with great bluster.
Now here's a bunch of kayakers out on an expedition in East Africa. They're fully aware of the dangers that lie in the rivers up ahead, but no one could have prepared them for what can only be described as the scare of a lifetime. The water is perfectly still. But then, out of nowhere, a massive hippo jumps out and attacks one of the kayaks from underneath. It's amazing that these guys managed to stabilize themselves and avoid falling out, because the hippo would not have been as forgiving then.
On this channel there.
Here's an incredibly scary situation. A hippo pounces on a group of kayakers and attacks them. Here's the worst bit, though. The beast actually manages to capsize one of the vessels, bringing down the kayaker with it. The kayaker's life is in danger, as the hippo could spring up once again to finish the job. But thankfully, he climbs into another boat and comes out of this encounter in one piece.
Where are we going? Guys, we got too close to the boat.
Scary stuff. Let's head back to St. Lucia, where another hippo has wandered over from the World Heritage Site into the South African town. But once again, this big guy is totally unbothered as he casually strolls around the area. The people here are used to visitors like this guy, so they don't feel anxious either. In fact, they give the hippo the respect it deserves and let it roam freely like one of their own. Here is one of the biggest hippos you'll ever see, chasing down a boat. What is truly fascinating about this chase is that despite its size, the hippo is closing down on the boat at a rate of knots. Of course, this bad boy's only trying to make sure the boat gets away from its territory and isn't actually trying to attack. Because if it was actually angry, then there is no way the boat could have escaped unscathed. Let's be fair. Hippos don't exactly look like the most nimble creatures, especially when they're on land. But don't fall for their size, because when they really want to move, these guys can glide through terrain effortlessly, like this guy. You know what's even more impressive, though? The fact that this hippo isn't even sprinting means that if it were to charge at you, it could easily go up a couple of gears and run even faster. Here's one of the most horrific sights you'll see as this hippo makes a last-ditch effort to charge at a bunch of poachers. The hippo is trying its best to capsize their boat and make sure they never trespass in its territory again. But sadly, these people want it to come in close so they can shoot it down as a trophy. Let's hope they get the justice they deserve.